Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for coming today. It's a beautiful day, right? Yes. This has been a long time coming. My name is John Mills, president of the Alex Brienne Corporation, a Connecticut-based nonprofit. What we do is we research the formerly enslaved, try to find any current-day descendants, and then we try to inject them into the communities where they lived, worked, or died. This is an injection of fortune into the community where he lived, worked, and died. I am incredibly ecstatic that so many people showed up and saw meaning and importance in this event occurring, saw meaning and importance in his life and his family's life. So thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to get it kicked off with the invocation by Althea Marshall Brooks.
Good morning. Good to see you all. Let us pray. To the great I am, we thank you for this time and this opportunity to pause, reflect, and rejoice in the spirit and presence and legacy of fortune and all of those on the leaves of the tree. Their presence, their legacy, their love, their power, their leadership that has impacted this community. We thank you, Lord, for the presence of this mural that anchors and identifies the center as a place of refuge, of joy, of recreation, of growth, of power, of peace. I ask, as we sit in this place right now, that we all take the opportunity to remember our call to be ambassadors of this work, the call to lead, the call to each reach one, the call to change and transformation, the call to be a voice for the voiceless. We thank you for what this represents. May the spirit of it continue from generation to generation. We thank you for all these things. It is in your excellent and wonderful name that we pray this prayer. In the name of Elohim, Yahweh, Yeshua, we give thy name the glory. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Okay, next up, I wanted to bring up Ramona Hunter, daughter of the late Mr. John West, with a song.
Good morning. God sent his son. They called him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He bled and he died to buy our pardon, and an empty grave is there to prove our Savior lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. And because he lives, all of our fears are gone. Because we know who holds our future. Our lives are worth the living just because then one day we'll cross the river. We'll fight life's final war with pain, and then as death gives way to victory, we'll see the light of glory, and we'll know He lives. Because He lives, we can face tomorrow, no matter what tomorrow brings, because Jesus lives. All of our fears are gone, because we know, our future, our lives, our worth, they're worth living just because He lives.
All right now. We ain't playing no games. We ain't joking. Thought we was joking. Thought we were playing, right? All right. Amen. All right. I think this is going to be just as fantastic. Let's welcome up Miss Melanie Harris McFarland for our poem.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Melanie Harris McFarland. I am 7 years old. I attend the North End Recreation Center after-school program. I am also a student at Rotella Manning School. I'm the daughter of Chelsea Harris and Ramon McFarland. I have an older sister, Maddie, and a younger brother named Nazir. I would like to take this time to read to you a poem written by one of my counselors, Muffy. In Time. Once upon a time, there was yesterday. A time where heroes wore capes that looked a lot like brown skin. Yesterday, when Harriet led 19 rounds of Follow the Leader down endless trails to freedom. Yesterday, when Frederick Douglass went from slave to freeman and fought to bring others with him. Yesterday, when Rosa Parks took a stand by taking a seat and refusing to give it up. Yesterday, when 25,000 people walked 54 miles from Selma to Montgomery for a right to vote. Once upon a time, there was today, when heroes wore capes that looked a lot like brown skin. Today, Madam C.J. Walker's millions paved way for Oprah Winfrey's billions. Today, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier so that over 70% of the NBA could be athletes of color. Today, Maya Angelou wrote poems so that Amanda Gorman could stand at the White House gates. Today, Martin Luther King marched on Washington so that Barack Obama could live inside as president. Someday there will be tomorrow, where heroes will wear capes that looked a lot like brown skin. Tomorrow I will dream like Martin, write like Maya, and play like Kobe, innovate like Madam CJ, and lead. Like Michelle and Barack, tomorrow I will be a product of my todays and all of the yesterdays that I never got to meet. Tomorrow I will be whatever it is that I can imagine myself to be. And don't...
Better going on then. Melanie done inspired me. I'm about to go do something today. What? All right. I'm gonna put this aside and take out my notes and tell the Fortune story as I know it. I'm sure many of you already know the story, but just in case, I'm going to make sure I do that, and then I'm just going to talk from the heart. Fortune was an enslaved man of Dr. Preserve Porter, whose farm existed on the lot currently occupied by Brass Mill Commons Shopping Center here in Waterbury. Fortune lived with his wife Dina and 4 children, Africa, Jacob, Mira, and Roxa, in a small dwelling house 80 rods east of the dwelling of his enslaver, near current-day East Main and William Street. Fortune's family were well known to this community. His son Africa was responsible for ringing the schoolhouse bell for 3 months in 1790. And on December 20th, 1797, Fortune was baptized at St. John's Episcopal Church. Fortune's enslaver, Dr. Porter, was a Waterbury bone setter, one in a long line of doctors. His 2 brothers were doctors. His father was a doctor. His grandfather was a doctor. His great-grandfather was a doctor. In 1798, Fortune's death was notated in the records of Waterbury resident Benjamin Upson. Many years later, a skeleton was referenced in Volume 2 of Joseph Anderson's 1896 book, referred to as Larry. According to Anderson, Larry was an enslaved man belonging to Dr. Preserve Porter, who slipped from a rock at the river and drowned. As the story was told, Dr. Porter prepared and preserved the skeleton, doing the work at the place where the accident occurred. Dr. Porter would then open a school of anatomy, using the skeleton as a training tool. We now know that skeleton was actually Fortune. On Dr. Porter's death in 1803, Fortune's wife Dina is listed in Dr. Porter's probate inventory as having a value of $10. Fortune's skeleton is listed with a value of $15. There is no indication of what became of Fortune's 4 children, and by 1810, there's no record of Dina. Fortune, however, began a post-mortem journey of continuous possession spanning 2 centuries. Fortune's bones were willed to Dr. Porter's son, Jesse, who was also a Waterbury doctor. They then became the possession of Jesse Porter's grandson, Dr. Homer Law, who studied medicine in Philadelphia, lived in New York for most of his life, and spent his final years in Hartford. Thus, Fortune traversed 3 states. In the 1870s, Dr. Law used the bones to teach anatomy to his daughter, Dr. Sally McGlannon. Sally was one of the first females to graduate from Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. Sally later referred to the bones as her first plaything as a child, keeping the bones with her all of her life, eventually attending Johns Hopkins, where she married and remained. So over the span of 100 years, Fortune had traveled from Waterbury to Philadelphia, to New York, to Hartford, and now to Baltimore. In 1932, Dr. Sally McGlannon shipped a skeleton, having Larry written across its skull and wrapped in fresh tissue paper, to the Mattatuck Museum, arriving on October 28, 1932. Excited about the skeleton, the museum director, Mr. Haddon, felt the most interesting thing to do would be to secure the bones together and install them in a case. So once again, Fortune traveled. Mr. Haddon sent the bones to Germany, where screws and wires were installed to hold each bone together, replicating the way they connected and functioned in a living body. On its return, Mr. Haddon placed the skeleton in a case for display as Larry, aligning with what was written across the skull. In 1938, Mr. Haddon communicated to Dr. McGlannon that the skeleton carried away all honors in attracting attention at the museum. He also mentioned that the most enthusiastic audience seemed to be made up of, as he put it, very young and excitable Negroes. I translate that as the Waterbury black community not being too happy with the skeleton of a black man hanging in a museum. But Mr. Haddon reassured Dr. McGlannon, informing her that Waterbury's Negro population was not that extensive. The skeleton remained on display for over 30 years, sometimes standing next to farm tools, sometimes positioned seated on a small stool. It was also displayed on a popular postcard sold by the museum, But by the 1970s, with greater sensibility, the skeleton was removed from public display and placed in storage where it remained for over 20 years. In the 1990s, realizing there was little documented of Waterbury's African-American history, Ms. Maxine Watts of the Waterbury chapter of the NAACP asked the Mattatuck Museum to lead a project to locate and record the lives of the city's oldest African-Americans. Known as the African-American Oral History Project, committee members recorded the stories of 40 residents 80 years of age or older. As the committee finished their work, a local resident reminded them of a much older African-American in the city, showing them an old postcard from the museum depicting a skeleton called Larry. After over 20 years, the bones were pulled from storage and research was done to determine the identity. I see Rachel Guest here in attendance, who was a part of that team. And thank you for coming. I appreciate that. She's the director at Silas Bronson Library. They ultimately determined that the skeleton was actually Fortune. So the committee now sought the assistance of anthropologists, archaeologists, and other scientists to learn more. Known now as the Fortune Project, Fortune again traveled. He was examined at the University of Connecticut, at Howard University, in Washington, at the University of Oklahoma, at Central Connecticut State University, at Quinnipiac University, and also at Hampshire College in Massachusetts. From the bones, they learned that Fortune stood around 5'6" tall, was in his mid-50s or older when he died, was a very strong man who worked hard in life and likely experienced pain due to traumatic events throughout his life. After many years of study, the committee made the decision to lay Fortune to rest. St. John's Episcopal Church donated the burial plot, and Alderson's Funeral Home donated the casket. But before services were performed, Fortune traveled one last time. On September 12, 2013, Fortune made his way to the Connecticut State Capitol in Hartford, where he laid in state. He was then escorted by state police to St. John's Episcopal Church here in Waterbury, the very parish where he was baptized in December of 1797. He was then buried at Riverside Cemetery amongst 18th and 19th century elites of Waterbury society, including some who held his bones, something that could have never happened at the time of his death. Martin Begnoff from the Riverside Cemetery is also here. I saw him somewhere, but there he is in the back. And thank you for coming. He worked to get the Fortune's burial site at the cemetery on the Connecticut Freedom Trail, so if you ever have a chance, please go check that out. About 15 months ago, I was at that ceremony last year, honoring Fortune at his grave site. And I thought at the time that it would be great if we can inject him into the community where he lived. The idea of a mural came to mind, and so I reached out to Matt Conway, the executive director of the Rise Up Group, Connecticut-based nonprofit, public arts nonprofit, to ask him if he could help. I also reached out to a community of people, my board at my nonprofit, and a lot of people who have supported me for many years. A lot of them are are here today. They helped me raise $15,000, and so I got on a call with Matt, and Matt said, "Well, you need to go talk to that community. You know, who in the community would agree to that? Let's get them into a steering committee." So I reached out to Martin Begnaw, and he gave me a bunch of names. He gave me Rachel Guest's name, and she agreed to be on our steering committee. Neva Vigezi of St. John's Episcopal Church, she agreed. Holly Maxson of Waterbury Public Schools agreed and became a part of our steering committee. Wendy Tyson Wood of the Greater Waterbury NAACP agreed. Tammy Denise of the Connecticut Freedom Trail agreed to be on the steering committee. Maybeth Morales Davis of Waterbury Arts and Tourism Commission agreed to be on the committee. Sharia Makuchi of Palace Theater agreed to be on that committee. Judith Mancini of the mayor's office was on the committee. They agreed immediately. And Bob Burns of the Mattatuck Museum. Todd Levine of the State Historic Preservation Office connected me with the mayor's office, and he himself also agreed to be on the committee. So now we were, stacked with a lot of people from organizations here in Waterbury, and the Rise Up group reached out to Katiana Jarbat Smith, the artist who painted this mural right here up front, and she designed an incredible depiction of Fortune and his kids, as well as worked with Marguerite Bowen to come up with an idea that showed it progressing through time into a tree of life with names of instrumental people relative to this recreation center, this being the year of its 50th anniversary of the rec. And so I'm eternally grateful for all the work all of these people put in to come up with this. But I also want to shout out all these people that, before I even reached out, started raising funds. A.J. Schrag, who grew up in this neighborhood, was at this rec often, worked with a friend of mine, Aaron Rignon, who's here from New Jersey. And they, the group I'm associated with called the Feel Good Fam, raised $3,000 before I could even talk to the Waterbury community. A guy named Tyler Moses and Kathleen DeMars of another group I'm related to called the Boo Crew raised $4,000. My Run, Lift, and Live family, my personal Facebook group, raised over $5,000 individuals. I mean, I'm talking about just $20, $50 donations. Courtney Mitchell she works at the Washington Post and is in my group. She got me into the Washington Post so that I could tell the story of a lot of my projects, but this one in particular, which made the story get to Kelly Clarkson. And so she invited me on her show, and we were able to put out more awareness to this community and this family, and she donated $5,000 to this mural. Aisha Tyler of the CBS show Criminal Minds heard about it. She sent $5,000 for this mural to be here. And coincidentally, I talked about how Fortune traveled. And it was an international thing, Even when this story broke in the 90s, that was an international story. And when I started to fundraise, that was international. I got donations from Canada, from the UK. I even got a donation from Germany, ironically. And so this is an amazing culmination in my mind. In 2003, I traveled to Texas to find my second great-grandfather's burial site. His name was Ned Mills. When I got there, the cemetery that was marked on my family's, most of their death certificates, they weren't there. And then I walked to the back into the woods, and that's where I found them. And I had to think through that in 2003 of my grandfather, who I knew, he died in 1986, having to look at reverence, pass by all these white Americans in reverence, and walk into the woods to then bury the people I'm related to. I was in Baltimore, where Fortune traveled 3 years ago, looking for my third great-grandfather who fought in the Civil War, only to find out he was buried in a colored cemetery that had been paved over in the 1960s. And there were 30,000 African Americans under that parking lot. And that brought me to a place that I think we need to change the narrative on how we see these people. I don't think we teach it correctly. I don't think our country teaches it correctly. I exist because they persisted and they procreated. So I think we should look at the formerly enslaved with reverence. We should exalt them. We should inject them into our communities. We should make sure that their names are remembered. And so that's what the intent is of this mural. And hopefully for years to come, people will come here and learn about Fortune. And with that, I'm gonna move on. Thank you. The next person to speak was supposed to be the executive director of the Rise Up group, but his son fell ill this morning. He's at the emergency room, so he couldn't make it. So we're going to move past Matt for now, but he sent his love on to Katiana Jarbat-Smith, who is the artist who painted this mural. Thank you.
So, greetings, everyone. First off, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out today to the North End Rec Center. This place is truly a gathering ground for our community, and today, I want to introduce myself again. My name is Katiana Jarbat-Smith. I originated from South Florida, actually, and now Connecticut is home. And I am just very grateful to be here today with all of you. So I want to say this place is truly a gathering ground for our community, and today it holds a new piece of our shared history, our shared story. First, I want to extend my deep gratitude to John Mills of Alex Beyond Corporation and Matt Conway from Rise Up for Arts. Your dedication and support have been crucial in turning this vision into a reality. Margaret Hayward, thank you for making this a welcoming space for everyone. I have felt so welcome here over the past few months, and it's because of people like you, truly. To all the committee members, each of you played a role in making this happen, and although I'd love to list all your contributions, we might be here until dinner if I did. So thank you for your contributions over the past year. Special thanks also goes out to Marsh, Andre Rochester, and Amber. They're the artists that assisted me on this mural project. Your talents have helped to bring this mural to life, and I appreciate you. I actually don't know where they are. I see one right now. Thank you. That's actually Andre, and I'm not sure if Marsh has made it out here yet. This mural has truly been a labor of love for me. As a person of color, having the opportunity to tell stories of people of color on such a grand scale is a profound honor. I am grateful for the chance to use my gift to bring these narratives to life, creating a visual legacy that will inspire dialogue and connection. One of the most moving moments for me was just after I had put the final touches on the mural. A group of children approached, eager to learn about what they were seeing on the wall. I got to share Mr. Fortune's story with them and got to see their fascination. And for sure, for me, that reaffirmed the mural's role as an educational and inspirational tool. And I feel like from the time I started the mural, it's been doing what we intended it to do. I want to also thank my family for their endless patience and support as I worked on this project. My husband, Nick, who unfortunately had to leave to take one of our kids to a soccer game. But yeah, he probably came over about 6 million times to bring me all the things I forgot. So I want to thank him for always having my back, even when my memory didn't. Art has a unique power to connect us, to foster dialogue, and to beautify our shared spaces. I'm grateful for this opportunity to contribute to our community, using my craft to tell stories that will live on. I want to thank you all for your support and embracing this project, and for believing in the power of art to transform spaces and minds. I want us to continue to find strength in all of our stories and one another, and that's it.
Thank you, Katiana, and thank you for all your work. And I would drive down here sometimes after she finished the mural. I wouldn't tell nobody, and I'd be parked down there across the street, and she'd be still over here painting, and I'd be ducking, like so she don't see me. She didn't know I was over there. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to welcome up, and I'm very ecstatic to have Mayor Paul Prenoruski.
Good morning. It's nice to see all of you here today to unveil this mural and to celebrate 50 years here at the North End Rec Center. I think it's so appropriate that this mural is here to remind us of the story of Fortune, because it is so important as a country and as a community that we understand all of our history, not just the things that make us feel good, but the things that make us feel bad, the things that force us to look into ourselves and into our hearts and see what's really in there and what do we need to change to have a better world. And that is part of what this will do. With this place where young people come to have opportunities and to be able to move forward. And I look at, it's Melanie, the young lady. When I listen to Melanie speak with that poise and that dignity and that grace, I have a great hope for the future of this country, and it makes me feel much, much better. And this will help us to come together as a community and to be able to move forward. And it's appropriate that it's here and that today we're celebrating 50 years of a community center that has made such a difference, can produce young people like Melanie here in our community. So I know sometimes it seems we're going backwards instead of forwards. This may be one of those times right now, but I know that there are more people who are good people and want to do the right thing than there are people who don't. And if we continue to work together, we're going to be able to overcome it all and prevail. As Dr. King said, the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And together we can make that happen. So thank you all for coming out for this today.
Yes, that was awesome. All right. There were two people that I reached out to about talking today. They both were like ecstatic. They both said, yes, we'll be here. Congresswoman Johanna Hayes and Senator Richard Blumenthal. But Johanna Hayes' team is like, I don't know, I'm in the middle of an election. I'm gonna try, but I don't know. But I understood. So I just wanted you guys to know that she sent her best wishes and love. And Senator Blumenthal was all set to be here as well until late last night. So he had a conflict late last night in support of a campaign as well. So they couldn't make it, but also sent their best wishes. Next person I want to welcome up to speak in behalf of Fortune and the North End Rec. He grew up right near here. So I think it makes perfect sense that he speak, and that is Representative Geraldo Reyes.
Good morning, everybody. The Waterbury delegation is extremely proud of what's going on here, and the Waterbury delegation does not work alone. I'm going to call up my esteemed colleague, Representative Larry Butler from the 72nd District, to stand with me here, and he'll share some words with you as well. I'm going to tell you real quick a little history about myself. So the first time I met Fortune, I was probably 10 or 11 years old when I walked into the old Mattatuck Museum, and he was hanging there. And that's what greeted me at the door, was a skeleton hanging there. That's how I met him. It didn't make sense to me then as a 10-year-old. So I can assure you, when the community went to work to first acknowledge and address this wrongdoing over the decades, it makes me so proud to be a Waterbury to see what the effort, the work that has gone into to actually getting this right, having a real funeral for this gentleman, recognizing the history, the wrongdoing. History moves on. We have to learn. We have to change. I went to the funeral, and I felt like there was a closure at that funeral, which was a lot different than when I first walked into that Mattatuck Museum way back when. As Mr. Wall said, I did grow up here in the projects right behind where we're sitting and standing today. I love this city. This city means a lot to me. And this is so appropriate about bringing people together, collaborating. Black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. It's all about coming together. Just look around. Look at everybody who's here. Everybody's here in unity because of this Fortune. So to the artists, to the collaborators, to the sponsors, to the people who made this happen, I am extremely grateful and honored to be here to speak to you today, and really thankful that you were able to achieve this. It's a prominent spot, it's the right place, and I'll leave you with this. The world is very divisive today, but things like this help unite us. Thank you very much.
Good morning. This really touches my heart to see this mural here. I too grew up a block from here. For those who are old enough, remember Dr. Lee, the dentist, had a building right there. Yes, that was my first home on this planet. So that's how close I am to this community. Growing up here, my parents, when they first came here, there used to be a street called Abbott Avenue. Just right there, right? Yes, that's how I'm tied to this. So I could tell you that, you know, it brings me so much joy to be here and to think about the founding fathers of Waterbury, those great leaders who have streets named after them. Well, none of them have a mural. So this really brings joy to my heart for that too. And I'm glad to hear the history, because as a little boy, the first trip my school went to was at the Mattatuck Museum. And I remember a lot of things that day, but the thing that really stayed with me when I left there was the bones, the skeleton named Larry. You never know how those things will impact you. Growing up and playing down near the Mattatuck River, used to always have fun. After I saw that, read about him in the Mattatuck River, I never played near that river again. But I want to just thank all the people who came out to make this a special moment, all the sponsors, the young lady who spoke, oh my God.
Have her stand up. Have her stand up.
Yes, please stand up again.
Please stand up.
Yes, we have a future, and you're going to be a big part of it. So thank you again for allowing me to share these words and my experience and my connection to this community and to Fortune. And I'm so glad to hear the whole story, because for many times when I was a little kid, I had kind of nightmares over those skeletons. So now I could rest now that he's at rest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wall. Thank you.
All right, that is amazing. All right, we're going to round it out with closing remarks from the director of the North End Rec Center, who has been an incredible friend and help to me. I truly appreciate her, Marguerite Bowen. Thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I really do want to acknowledge one person before I even give thanks, who's been really, truly such an inspiration, not only to myself, but to this recreation center. And I would feel a little disappointed if I did not call this person to the stage just to really say a few words, because she's really inspiring and an inspiration to me as well. And so it only is right to bring up Senator Joan Hartley. So I need you to come here and just give a few words, and then I'll give my final remarks. Listen.
I got it. I read the note.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. I almost don't have any words, because this is so thrilling, chilling, encapsulating for me, for all of us, for Waterbury. First of all, the North End Rec is the epicenter in this community for generations. And the leaders here and the people who have given hour upon hour, volunteer hour upon hour, are amazing, and so many. And so, thank you, Margaret. All I want to say is the talent that is here in this community and demonstrated on this wall is going to forever inspire us and live on for generations. And Fortune's story is the story of millions of Americans in this country. And it is the story of a country waking up far too late. And in Waterbury, thank you, Rachel, thank you for this entire community that, and by the way, how about that voice? I mean, the talent abounds, but in Waterbury, I think we stand out as a model to the rest of the state and to the rest of the country about reckoning, about re-upping, about elevating, and continuing to move on, and a model to this country, especially as we go into this next week. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you, Fortune, because you have done so much for us over generations. And lastly, please, while you take in this amazing piece of art, don't forget to look at the names on the leaves. The names on the leaves will live on forever, and I'm looking right here at the first one, and it's Dwayne Bob Clement Sr. And I just want to say that it's Margaret and Ralph DeGroat and Bob and Darius and the long, long list of talent here that have shaped my family's life and my children. They grew up here. I grew up on Arion Street and Guile Street, but my kids grew up here. Thank you all. And Representative Napoli is here also because the Waterbury delegation embraces the work of the North End Rec, and we stand with you however and whenever we can do. Brian?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you all this morning, and thanks for everyone who made this happen today. You know, this mural, Fortune story, really rights a lot of wrongs today, and so it is so important that we are all here and that we go back and tell this important story. You know, this community has done so much for everyone, and so having Fortune on this mural will live on for legacies and for future generations to really understand his story and retell it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. My name is Margaret Hayward Bowen. If you ask me, would I be sitting in this seat today, I would probably tell you no, because I never thought I would be the director here at the North End Rec. A lot of people did wish for me to come back. And under Mayor O'Leary pushing and pushing, and Senator Hartley, I changed my mind and I came back, and so it's great to be here. But if you ask me, would I be in this position to make sure I lift up some important people who have impacted my life? Absolutely. Just didn't know how it was going to get done, but it got done, and I'm excited for that moment. Definitely, I want to give thanks to our Mayor Paul, who gave the soft yes. And then I also thought it was amazing that the organization that bought their vision here came to the rec center to ask. And just like anything, if you approach me and you want something, please know I'm gonna ask for something in return. I don't know what it was gonna be, but this right here, as a kid, didn't really know too much about Fortune, and it's most of the time when it comes to art and stuff like that, most people don't get involved, but listening to the stories over the years, definitely impactful. But the other part, the piece that is more dear to me than anything, it doesn't take away from this, is just paying respect to those who have planted a seed in me. Being a community person, it takes away from home. You're always out 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, sometimes in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. One of our past directors always said, basketball is a way to bring you here, but once you're here, you're here. And that was my story. I didn't come to the rec when I was a kid. I was at the Boys and Girls Club. However, around 89, 90, I was playing basketball for Crosby, and I met a gentleman by the name of Mr. The late Wardell Ward. And that was my story. He brought me here. However, when I got here, I got to meet some amazing people who, I mean, I can go on and on about them, and I'll be here all day. However, Mr. Ward stayed short, and then he was here with Miss Sandy, the late Sandy Williams, who definitely holds a real piece to my heart. Not only my supervisor, not only a friend, but became my godmother upon her retiring and moving. However, I met more wonderful people, Ralph DeGroat, Bob, Dwayne Clemens, and of course Darius Butler. It didn't stop there because there were so many different people who I thought worked here, but after years learning that they were just volunteer, like the late Eleanor Carr. And each person made me do something I really didn't want to do besides play basketball, but they sold things, and just like how your grandmother teaches you something and you get to take it along the way. So each person instilled things in me to make me me. So what is the Friends of the North End Rec? From the stories that I told, it was people would be, because I guess we couldn't get money as much, so it would be the friends of the kids who would help and support to raise money to do certain things at our center. So I wouldn't be right if I put, it would be right, but I had to add more, because what does a community look like? A community looks like not just here, because at the end of the day, the rec center is the rec center. We're gonna pour into our community, but it looks like how our past director, Ralph DeGroat, would go out to Berkeley. He would go out to the Pride. He would go out to the WOW. He would go out, well, actually, Miss Eleanor would go out to Grace Baptist Church. And so those are the people where we came together to support each other. So you'll see the names such as Reggie Beeman. If I didn't put that name on, I know Miss Sandy would get, because anything I needed, she made sure that I went and talked to Reggie Beeman. And even doing this, I said, Ralph, who do we, he said, you gotta go talk to Reggie. And Reggie gave us, Uncle Reggie, gave us all the information that was needed. And that was one of our friends. When it came to driving kids, Ralph would pile, if you know Ralph, he would pile everyone in his car. He would bring the kids from Berkeley Rec Center where Mr. West and Mrs. Harris was, and then he would then drive all the way to the WOW to where Miss Paris was. And that's what community was looking like at the time. We came together, and anything we did, no matter what, it didn't take from no one. All it did was pour in. That's what community meant. The blood, the sweat, the tears, the long nights, the sleepovers, the constant giving food, shelter, all those things. Yes, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're doing it daily. From the churches, from the Grace Baptist Church, all the kids that came from over there, us going there, and so on and so on. So I thank each and every one of you guys, especially John Mills, wherever you're at. I see you over there. I appreciate you and your wife, wherever she's at. We had moments here and there. I appreciate your vision, bringing it here, because without no vision, there's nothing. And then to this amazing artist who, I mean, I don't understand how she did it, but she did it. I was peeking too, but I think I came out a few times and I didn't want to see it. But start to finish, I think you did. You executed it. You captured it. You captured everything. And the most important piece of it is those leaves that stand out the most. Dr. Mosley, Miss Josephine Motts. And then there was this one piece that I felt only right to place, because they did want to change the name of our center. However, putting one name doesn't mean much, because there's so many people who poured into the North End Rec. So when they asked to do a mural, I said, you missed that mark. But what I can do is add, and if you would like us to add his name, then we'll do that. And that's where we have Dr. Chris Love. So we added him as well. On the far right. So if you're here, you're a family member, I want you to come stand up here, because this represents you. It doesn't just only represent you, it represents a legacy that you'll leave behind. And it's important that we remember that, because I remember all of it, and it's amazing. And literally to be back in the center, I mean, the kids are so different. And I remember anywhere I went, I had a bunch of kids with me. And so it's important to me to pour into kids, because I can get some kids, it's not hard. It's just impacting them and pouring into them. So Melanie, come here. Her mom used to ride around with me forever. Here, you can sit on your little thing. I'm gonna move this so they can see. Her mom was one of the kids that rode around with me all day, every day. She was never home. We were always on the road with Mr. Ralph DeGroat. Come on, Mr. Ralph DeGroat. Come on. We were everywhere, Florida, Atlanta. If we weren't in Atlanta, we were with Miss Wyrick. You guys come up. Miss Wyrick's family, please come up. She had us in Cincinnati. She had us in Kentucky. She had us all over going to different pride conventions where it dealt with kids with conflict and resolutions. Those are the things that we remember the most, where we did African dancing day in and day out. We would walk from here to Sherry Street. And then I want to bring up Bob and his family as well, who was a huge piece to our community as well. Ramona Hunter, John West's daughter. Come on up. Cassandra. Lenore, come on up. This is Miss Sandy's daughter who flew all the way to Atlanta, didn't want to miss this moment. I'm grateful for her to be here. She looking just like her mama. Also, Reginald Beeman. Come on, Uncle Reggie, come on. I'm pulling you all on a spot. You played a huge piece in the center. Is Sean Mosley here? Come on. I was seeing if I see Mr. Carr, but I don't see William. Am I missing anybody? I think it's mostly everybody that came, but it's because of these amazing people before you that they have impacted not only my life, but also the people at the rec center. So we thank you guys for sharing your families with us. Day in and day out. Thank you. And last but not least, Jim. When planning the mural, John had said some things that he still had to raise money. And so I was waiting for him to let us know we could send the link to get this done. And the next thing you know, he turned around and said, oh, it's paid for. And I'm like, well, I didn't do anything. And he was like, oh, that's okay. So John, I definitely want you to come up. I don't have a lot of money. Some might think. However, I definitely want to sow a seed into your next project, because your vision and all those that paved the way for us to have this, I definitely want to sow a seed into your next vision. So on behalf of the Friends of the North End Rec, here's just a little token of our appreciation. And I don't know where it's going to lead, but it might help some brushes or something. I don't know. But I appreciate you. And to this great artist over here, Katiana, they say give your flowers while you're alive. So I'm giving you these flowers, young lady, because you just did the thing. And I appreciate you. And last but not least, I want to thank Chef Shay, I gotta say her name right, who we catered the event. Young girl at Cater Tech, she's a senior. And so we have brunch, it's on us. I'm grateful that there's not 200 people here because we didn't know what to expect. But definitely, please make sure you can go in. There's fruit, there's food, and also please make sure you check out the tables of the people who invested in this mural. I know like the libraries here, who's part of the committee. So there's so many there's like 7 organizations that put love into this mural and money. So please make sure you definitely go inside and check the tables. And if you want to sow a seed into John's heart so you can get some more murals up around our city, state, please do so. Thank you. That's it, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Margaret, great job.
Thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes.
Yes, Margaret.